So obviously, with it being wintertime, I've made several videos discussing the wood stove. I do every year. I find that a lot of people, it's interesting. I really do think this is interesting. I find that a lot of people refuse to believe that things can change, and they refuse to read instructions. Period. There is just no questions asked. Anytime I make a wood stove video, I get the same comments. I've been doing wood since I was 12 years old. You don't need to tell me how to do it. Well, the technology has changed. Your grandma's wood stove works like an antique cotton mill compared to this thing. This thing is amazing. And the thing is this one's actually obsolete now. The company who manufactured it changed their name and did something different. I honestly believe that this is called a Wood Pro. I think Wood Pro actually changed their name to Ashley Wood Stoves. I'm not for sure, but they're very similar wood stoves. They look identical. And if you look at the more expensive wood stoves, oh my goodness, they look like something that would be not wood. It looks like it's a gas stove. When they manipulate this, it changes everything. It's crazy how much technology they can put into a wood stove to make it just so much better. And I always talk about you got to have firewood that's been dried for 2 years, not green, and you have a moisture tester to check it. Oh no! What did they do in the 1920s when they didn't have moisture testers? Well, they burned wood firewood, and many, probably thousands, hundreds of thousands of homes burned down because they were burning wet firewood. I don't even understand the mindset that we're going to talk about modern day wood stoves and use 1920s information. It just doesn't make sense. The last wood stove video I made, I got really kind of sarcastic in it, and I was really kind of hammering on people that if you want to be stupid and you want to burn down your house, then don't listen to me. That's fine. But it got a lot of feedback, and I was kind of impressed. Now, what I found interesting was the knowledge level of wood stoves. I kind of figured everybody has seen a wood stove in their life, especially the age of my audience. Now, I know people that say, the Z generation don't know anything about wood stoves these days. Well, the Z generation doesn't watch my videos. And I know there's going to be that one commenter that says, I'm 18. In general, most of my audience is older than me. So I found it kind of interesting that there were people who does not know how to do things with the wood stove. So I wanted to address some of these comments today. Now, one of the things I've said, if you want to keep your wood stove working well and safe, burn dry firewood. Now, I know I just mentioned that, but what happens is, and I'm going to cover this again, is when you burn wet firewood, that smoke, this wood stove burns the smoke. Ooh, that's still a little warm. I didn't expect that. This wood stove burns the smoke. It hits these reburners up here, these air tubes. Now, like I said, this one's already a few years old, so it's already ancient technology. And when that smoke hits it, it catches on fire. And this wood stove is 85% efficient. If you're burning wet wood, well, first thing you're doing is you're reducing the efficiency of your wood stove down to 30% because that heat has to burn the water. Well, you don't just burn water. It's not like it magically disappears once you burn it. No, it turns into steam. So now that smoke won't burn off on the reburners. What it does is it gathers up with that water, mixes and combines, and it turns into tar. And it looks and feels just like tar. That roofing tar you might use to patch a hole on your roof, kind of that consistency. And it's nasty and sticky. I had it on my roof this first year we were here, and I climbed up on the roof and I got it on the bottom of my shoes and I tracked that stuff all over the place. It was terrible. Well, that wood particles, now mixed with water, is very flammable. It'll go off at 500 degrees. Smoke is wood particles. So when you're accumulating wood particles into a paste, it becomes like an explosive device. It's terribly flammable. And so once it catches on fire, it'll burn to about 1500 degrees. So that'll melt your chimney. So keep your wood dry and you won't have that problem. Well, the other thing that happens then is your window gets dirty. because you've just put that tar onto your window. So I said, take a wet wipe, and that's what I did the first year I was here. And you dip the wet wipe in the ashes here, and then you take that wet wipe and you can wipe off the window. Now, if it's really thick, it's hard to get off. But if it's every now and then I'll have a little piece that'll spurt out a little bit of water. It's just nature, it just happens, and it'll stick. And I take that ash and that wet wipe, and it'll come off pretty easy. But if it gets real thick, it's kind of tough. Well, of course, somebody's got to say, oh, I got a better idea. What you do is you take a razor blade, you scrape that stuff right off, it'll be fine. This is not regular glass. It's actually, I think, ceramic. Adjusts to temperatures very well, very well. It doesn't break if you change temperatures too fast. So it can be really hot, and I can spill water on it, coffee or anything, and it doesn't break. However, it does break very easy. I mean, just crazy easy. I've already broke 2 simply by trying to clean it. So no, don't scrape. Even a greenie will scratch this. I did one on the first window I had a greenie. I thought I'd clean it off and it scratched it. You scratch it, you've just made it brittle in that area, and it will break. And these are about $300 a piece, I think. Just use some sort of liquid and ash. I wouldn't use anything else. And I know everybody's got a solution to this, but I found that's the best. Now, somebody asked me, well, how do you clean the ashes out of the wood stove? And I didn't realize I had so much heat in there. We're still burning coals. I'd rather not pull it out. But so you saw that I just pulled this tray out. Now the tray is full of ashes that I accumulated. So you can buy these shovels at the hardware store. I literally have 2. My grandma used to have these, and I thought they were just kind of neat, a little shovel. But that's what they're for, just for the wood stove. So, I mean, this is not a hard process. Just take the ashes out and dump it into the tray here. And then you let it sit. I don't like trying to put a lot of coals in there because the ash holds that heat. So it takes forever for that coal to burn down. So it's kind of unsafe. So when you dump that tray, now you're dumping it and it's got a lot of coals in it. It can be pretty dangerous. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. Now, every wood stove is a little different, but all of them use the same principles. You use a shovel somehow or another to get the ash out. Now, this dumb, stupid wood stove, and I say dumb and stupid wood stove, I love this wood stove, but it's got one little feature in here that I just cannot stand. And I'm not even going to mess with it, but right there in the center, there is a plug that falls down in there. And you're supposed to lift that plug up. Well, obviously right now it's hot, and there's a metal plug there. I'm not going to lift that plug up. It's too hot. So that if you lift that plug up, you're supposed to be able to rake the ashes into this little bitty hole. I mean, it's probably no bigger than that. I think it's ridiculous. Now, I understand the concept of it. If you have coals in there, those coals won't go down in that hole. So you just kind of sweep it back and forth until everything drops down into this. But I just think it's a ridiculous idea. First of all, if you have a lot of coals that are not burning up, that means you have wet firewood. I don't have a problem with my coals burning. I always have just ash. Every now and then you'll see a coal that pops out of there. Like I got one right here that made its way through, but it's just powdery ash that comes out of this if I just let it sit and burn. I remember when I was in 5th grade, there was a kid in the class whose dad was a truck driver, and when the Mount St. Helens erupted in Washington State, he was up there and he got a soda bottle or 2 of it, and that kid was passing around that ash, and that's what this reminds me of, that ash from that Mount St. Helens. I mean, I was always remembering ash buckets just full of coals, but that's because Grandma and Grandpa were burning wet firewood. Now, the other thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to clean the chimney every year after, probably in the springtime. And I am going to talk more about that in just a minute. Now, I'm going to continue with the ash. So I take this out, I can take that all the way out, and I carry it outside. Okay, so I just take it right outside. Here's the bridge, so it just comes right out of the house and right here. In the wintertime, I don't want to spend a lot of time when it's cold. I want to get that fire started. So I dump it right here. Now, everybody's going to say, what about the leaves? Don't they catch on fire? Well, no, not really, because I got this amazing invention. I'm the only one that's ever thought of this. A bucket of water. So every time I bring those ashes out, I don't want any hot coals landing on the leaves. So I always take a bucket of water and I douse it down. One time I must have forgotten, this a couple of years ago, I must have forgot because I was over there and I was on the other side of the house and I was smelling smoke. I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So I decided to investigate, and smoke was coming out of this. So I grabbed another bucket of water and just doused it down. But it holds on to those coals for so long that I think it was like 2 or 3 days after I dumped the ashes that it started smoldering like that. The thing is everything in here started catching on fire. All these little pieces of charcoal started catching on fire. So the other aspect of cleaning the wood stove, like I said, I clean it once a year, is the chimney. I'm getting to the age where I don't want to be on that roof, and it's a metal roof. It's very slick. When I built the roof, it was one of the hardest things I had to do, was put that roofing material on. I'll walk over here so you can see it. It was a nightmare. So the first year I was here, I had to get up there several times because we had that creosote problem, because we had wet firewood, and I was just sliding everywhere. You're up there and your hands are above your head and you're trying to reach up there to get that chimney. The first thing you got to do is you got to take, there's 3 sections of chimney up here on the top, and you got to take the top section off because I can't reach down in it. So what I did was I took some straps, cargo straps from the truck, and I tied it around this tree, threw it up there, and I tied it around my waist so I couldn't go any further than what the straps were allowing me to go. But it was very scary. And like I said, that first year we had such a creosote problem that it was on the bottom of my shoes. I was slipping around in it. It was pretty bad. But what you do is you can go to the hardware store and you can buy a brush. Now, I'm going to explain the pipe just in a minute. Just give me a minute. But you can buy this brush. It's a metal brush. This one's for a 6-inch pipe, and you run it down and up the chimney until you don't see any more creosote falling down. Now, we have not had a problem since we started burning dry firewood. That second year, no problems. But Carolyn would sit by the wood stove and look with a flashlight, and every time I'd come down, she'd see creosote. And so we communicated back and forth. Of course, you can talk to the chimney. And every time I bring it up, she said, yeah, do another one. There's still stuff falling down. I probably did it, I don't know, 15, 20 times, down and up, down and up. It was bad. But since then, we haven't had any problems. I don't want to be on that roof anymore. So I changed my method a little bit. I put it on this pipe. This is the same pipe that we can use for the well. We had a ton of this laying around. This is a little bit skinnier than the pipe I use in the well. We had a ton of this laying around the yard when we moved here. So I just taped, you can buy rods, I should say that, you can buy rods for the brush. And the rods disassemble kind of like a gun cleaning kit. If you've ever used one of those, they come apart in sections. But I didn't want to buy that much, so I just use this hose. But now, I don't climb up there. What I do is I feed it from inside. Since I don't have that vent, that flapper vent in the chimney, you're not supposed to put one in there. I know everybody's going to tell me in this video also, yes you do, but the instructions specifically say don't do it, and it's a violation of federal law. So if you're doing it to code, they'll never put one in. I can run this up now, it's all tied off here, through the chimney. That way I don't have to get on the roof. And with this black pipe, it's flexible enough that I can run it outside and in and out of the house. It works pretty good. But if you're going to do that, make sure you tie off a piece of string or rope or something. That way, if your tape comes loose, then you don't have the problem of this being stuck inside your chimney. That would be a nightmare to get out. So I replace that every year because it breaks every year. But again, you can buy these at the hardware store. I buy them at our local mom and pop hardware store. But the reason I've decided I'm not going to climb that roof anymore is it's just too dangerous for me. I'm getting up to the age now. See, this is the thing about living off grid, is people keep saying, oh, I'm just too old to do that, I'm too old to do that. Well, there are things that I'm afraid that I might be getting too old to do also. And instead of just sitting here being afraid all the time, I just find out different ways to do it. And it took some doing to figure out, oh, I could go from the inside and do it. Watch several videos. So you just got to think of different ways of doing things instead of just keep doing it over and over again and expecting different results. The reason people can't live this life is they're trying to do it like when they were 30. We're not 30 anymore. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about being too old to live this way. So hope I can inspire you to clean your chimney when you're living your dreams. Thanks for watching.